welcome back to the Magical Starsign tutorial, everyone. Now, yes, we did basically cover the entire beginning, middle, and endgame stories, as well as conquer the dreaded Glycini Caves, but there are some more big fights we need to cover, as well as explaining some pretty out-of-the-way character that you would normally meet once and not worry about till later. Later is now. I am, of course, talking about the oddest character design in the game, Master Macadamias. Seriously, what even is this creature? Master Macadamias is located on the wind planet Puffoon. If you head down south through the Quinoa Plains and head through the Big Vine where the Conscious Ruins is located, you'll find him floating there, menacingly. But honestly, he really is no harm. Mostly. This episode is all gonna be about him, so strap in, grab your pencils, and listen closely, because this is the episode about Master Macadamias. The first thing you can do with this creature, imp, butterfly thing, is that you can talk to him about certain battle topics. Most of these are pretty common knowledge just based off general battle topics. Case in point, it's called fighting strategies. To really explain what each of the 10 topics consist of, we have night and day. He'll explain how the night and day system works. When it's daytime, light is powered up, and when it's night, dark is powered up. And using an in resets the in-game timer. Remember, each day and night cycle lasts around 5 or so minutes, so 5 minutes for dark and 5 minutes for light. And once you gain control of your character, so for the overworld, you'll see the planet background shift from one cycle to the next when you enter a new area, and in battle, the screen will zoom up and either turn light or dark depending on the time. Dark and light is a pretty useful alignment to always have powered up, so always keep your eye on the time. Planetary orbit. Basically, Macadamus is explaining how the proper planet is lined up with the respective colored aura, you'll get powered up for a short amount of time. Each planet has its own cycle. Here's all the rotation time for take a full single rotation. Some planets have a much shorter cycle, like fire and wood, but get less time powered up. Meanwhile, water and earth have a longer amount of time powered up, but have more overall time to wait until they are powered up. And wind is in the middle ground of all of that. As mentioned in episode 1, an in will slightly rotate the planets, but you have to pay at a cost. However, if you have celestial swap, you can do that manually, but we'll explain that a bit later. Know yourself. Macadamias will explain how certain party members fill a certain role. Like Lassie, being a healer, will mostly stay in the back and heal the team, while Pico, with his high IQ stat, is mainly used for high damage. Everyone has a role to fill, and it's your job to figure out who has the best role for each character to play in what battle. Experience is key to figuring this strategy out. Know your enemy. Macadamias will explain how not every enemy is the exact same. Some are more defensive, while some focus on support, and others are constant attackers. Again, experience is the greatest tool here. Some foes are just very complicated on the first go around, but rematching wild enemies will let you get a better edge against them in later fights. This tool is very useful in the Glycini Caves. Bosses are similar, but since you only face them once and only once, you have to think a lot quicker on your attempts. Remember, you always have the alignment chart to figure out what element beats which element. Flow of battle. Macadamus will explain how speed is a massive factor on how long battles will turn out. Speed is a vital role. It can help you determine who moves first in battle. In a standard playthrough, Chai and Lassie will normally be the fastest members of your team. It's always best to set up defenses on their turn. The enemy kind of slips into that cycle. Depending on the speed, each member will move at least once before an enemy moves, and the cycle barely changes. Unless someone's speed stat is really low, so Mocha might not be used for much for long fights. And Chai will be used frequently in long fights. If you have the wing set, things might get a little bit more interesting. Considering if you have multiple sets, it's random on who gets to go first, so always keep that in mind. Use the land. Macadamus will explain how in the overworld there are good items to scavenge. Usually what can be found are frogs, worms, and the occasional tail and treasure chest. Always look around and be mindful of your surroundings. Enemies can also randomly spawn in, obviously. Oh, and he also explains if you get a game over, you'll restart to your last save. So save frequently. Not after every battle, but enough where you're comfortable enough not to restart a large chunk of progress. Use numbers. Macadamus will explain how your power is greater with more people. The analogy he explains is that if there's 3 members, one is used for attacking purposes, the other is used for HP healing, and the other is used for MP healing. Now this cycle isn't foolproof. The strategy crumbles if multiple AoE attacks are used successfully, But for starting out, it's a good strategy, especially for high damaging battles like the totem bombs. When you have more members, your strategy will increase and more pathways of strategies will show. Supplying power, Macadamias explains how a larger MP cost spell will be both a benefit and a deficit depending on how your battle plays out. So, if you're using your most powerful spells, you're gonna lack MP for the later half of the fight. So if you use more items or even guard, if the situation is ample, anything could go wrong in a moment's notice, so always be mindful of both your HP and MP and find the best way to micromanage your magic. Restoring power, Macadamias talks about health restoring magic, mainly for Lassie and the Light Protag. If you use a healing move when you have full MP, you'll gain the most amount back, but will be left with basically nothing afterwards. Always make sure when it's time to use the magic spell and whether you want it to be safe, or you can use it later knowing if the foe is close to being defeated. When you are running low, use an item instead. The same kind of applies to shields and barriers as well. It basically depletes all of your mana, so again, be mindful of that. And finally, we have moving planets. Macadamias talks about how useful planet swapping is with Celestial Swap. Let's finally go into depth of how this move actually works. Basically, every planet in the star rotates in a set orbit. The closer it is to the center, the more MP it cost uses. So for instance, let's say you want to move the wood planet. You could use Celestial Swap on Pico's turn to guarantee a power up on the wood planet, but you could also play it safe with MP costs and use it with Shy instead, because he is a wood mage, meaning that it would cost half of it. Most enemies that use this move will either do one of three things. 1, power up their own respective planet. 2, make sure that you aren't powered up. Or 3, they will set up for the strongest magic move in the game, titled Orbital End. When the 5 planets align, a cutscene will play out powering up each planet until the force of all the planets perform a life to shatter whoever didn't cast it. You can cast this spell too, but personally, wait until the opposition sets it up first, and as long as they don't have enough magic to fully prepare it up, steal it from and use it for your own. Now, this actually can happen to hurt both parties if the planets form a line naturally, hitting everyone, but this is very uncommon and very rare. Having everyone have Celestial Swap on your 6th move is essential, until you get the Brawly Ball that I recommend putting in on Shy. Celestial Swap is important for every single battle, so do not forget to equip it. That's all the tips Macadamus can give you on fighting strategies, but there are 2 more things you can learn about him, but both involve him actually fighting him. The first is to learn about Bean Pops. Bean Pops are relatively uncommon in Magical Starsign, but occasionally walking by you'll find some Bean Pops after you walk around, and by picking him up and battling Macadamias, don't worry about attacking you, he's very passive until you hit him, and then you can run away from free. Use the Bean Pop item on him and you'll receive 5 experience, meaning if you have exactly 20, you get a free level, and by having the max 99, you're at almost 5 levels. Now, finding Bean Pops is rather difficult considering you might not even really find them most of the time in the current playthrough. To find them most frequently, go to Puffoon's Quinoa Plains, or some parts on Earth like this long stretch of land, though the peak of the planet is the best place to at least find them. And if Pico is around, you can use his fire magic to increase the amount by 1 to 4. This is still pretty bad. It also can take a while just to even find one spawning. The only other location that you can make doing it is by doing Amigo dungeons, but even then it might take longer depending on your skill and luck. Personally, I use it for 2 things. One is to catch up on levels for my weaker party members that joined late, so someone like Pico or Sorbet, to even out everyone's levels, so I don't have to worry about someone being under level for a fight. The other uses do the exact opposite. If you know a tough fight is coming up and have a character that has stronger against that's stronger against that enemy, just use all your Bean Pops on them, grind for a little bit, and be powered up, be leveled up higher than the boss. But for honestly, just grind against high-leveled opponents. It's much faster and you'll get more Bira and stuff out of it. The other topic he mentions is figurines. If you have a figurine on you and use it on him, you're able to face this weird possessed trapped demon of sorts. They are very rare to come by, and there are exactly 26 figures to collect. The only way to attain the main game is the Monocorn Horn, and even then, it's from a single brownie NPC who is missable. But there are some more only obtained from multiplayer. You have 2 ways of obtaining some of these figures. The first is by playing on Amigo Dungeon map of the Capsicum Caverns, where some of the treasures that you can come across are the 15 regular enemy figurines, though they are quite rare to come by, so keep that in mind. The other, much easier way to find them is by tagging players with certain conditions are met. For instance, if both taggers are male, you'll get these items, but if the taggers are female, you'll get a different set. Basically, it's impossible to get every single figurine this way, because it requires to be a different gender. But if you want the most, play as the male pro tag, you'll get at least these figures, then send them over to Master Macadamias and fight those figures that came to life. It's like Amigos before they were even a thing. Now, you may be saying, Danger, didn't you do this already? You already talked about these figurines in a previous video. Well, if you were paying attention, I said 26 figurines, when we only have 15 so far. Where do you get the remaining 11? Well, by tagging someone who has beaten the game, you'll get these special figures, who are stronger versions of the bosses you faced previously. Now, they are all bosses, and we're gonna go and talk about them in order of level. So without further ado, let's slay these last monsters! The weakest boss figurine is the Fallen Devil, a recolor of Master Chard. The Fallen Devil has the exact same Chard sprite, but it's a much more deep purple outfit with cyan eyes and a black jacket. Easily a 10 out of 10 in alternate color. His moveset is the exact same in the fight against him on Shadra. He's in the back row with Blood Money for healing, Dazzle Darts for high damage and potential statusing, and finally, Finger Pointing to proceed to use Shadow Die, Blood Money, and Kick of Darkness, all in one turn. He's by far the easiest to take out, and he doesn't even drop an item. A benefit to these fights is the fact that you can set up the planets, shields, stat books, literally anything before actually spawning the beast himself. Fight him during the daytime, and honestly, a few good hits will knock him out for good. The next one is the Zafro Peak, a recolor of the Puka enemy on Raisin and Shadra. The colors of the red and blue are swapped with yellow horns. Not as good, but it's an exact copy of the Zaflo Peak enemy from Magical Vacation. Good reference, guys. But yeah, it's a slightly stronger Puka, having the same skills as standard cleave attack for a physical skill, but also some magic like Shadow Die for a standard hard hit, and Blood Money for some extra recovery. Honestly, if you took down the Fallen Devil, then this guy is no match for you. Face him with white, wingset, pro tag, you get the picture. The next fight is against the Dance Machine, a recolor of Mugwort. Incredible name aside, very lazy recolor. Mugwort but with a blue afro and a yellow body. Lame. Anyways, he may not be as strong as he was back then due to actually having his respective element's weakness, but he can still put up a good fight with 18,000 health. His magic skills are a Briar Patch to damage everyone, and using Slush Swap to benefit his powerful wood skills. He has some physical skills as well, one being Dancing Baby, still the best move name in the entire game, and a much more powerful move in Jungle Coaster, hitting everyone for some good damage. Pico is obviously your best option here. Power up the Fire Plant and blast him to oblivion. However, it's best to throw Lucky Clover on Shy or use Slippy Oil, because he holds a very good piece of equipment. The Towel. May not seem like much, but it's a part of the Mighty Bath set, so soft reset until you get one. Next up is the Stench Lord, a recolor of Gil Mudflap, and instead of purple, he's yellow. Who took my Chaos Emeralds? Anyways, the recolor is actually maybe easier than the original form of them. The reason I say that is that he isn't accompanied by 2 Buck Privates this time around, making his signature skill of Bossy Push do very little damage. Even with one of those stronger moves nerfed, he still has many stenches to deal with, like Blinding Clutch to blind you, Sickening Stitch to make you sick, and Retching Odor to decrease your MP amount. Quite the disgusting creature. He may have a lot of HP and power, but since you have much better access to Tails and Sorbet's Fresh Drop, this fight is much simpler. But don't forget to equip the Lucky Clover or throw Slippy Oil on him because he drops the Wash Basin, part of the Bath set, so soft reset until you get that. Trust me, you need a shower after facing this noxious foe. Next in line is the Pig Hansel foe, a recolored the Dab Hansel. No dabs this time, but now rocking a red shell with blue spikes, closely resembling the Peg Hansel enemy from Magical Vacation, though this one is stance up in that game. But Pig over here can pack quite a punch with his hits this time around. Rolling Stamp and Squashing Roller are very deadly coming off that attack stat, and being for quite fast and bulky too means that this foe isn't really messing around. His magic is nothing to sneeze at too, with Celestial Swap to mess with you, and to Shadow Die and Blood Money getting in your way as hit card as well. Remember, with these dark foes, always fight them in the light, even if you can't attack with it. 38,000 health is a lot, so always be striking them down. Next up on the Space Police rematches, we have the Narcissist, a recolor of Avalon Damar, but this time he is a lot more green this time. A pretty interesting choice of color to be appealing. This is where the boss gimmick show up, and it gets pretty dang annoying to counter. Narcissist will start using Sweet Nothings to completely prevent attacks from who the one is infatuated with him, and no, Tails and Magic cannot mend a broken heart. After a little while, he'll use Hello, Goodbye, and when he'll bring his loved party member to break his or her heart to 1 HP. Moving on to the next unfortunate victim of love. Narcissist also got some magic too, yet another signature move in Fluorescent Field to use small damage to pick off any low health foes, and Ice from Edge. A rare move that nails everyone with some strong water magic. He of course has Celestial Swap to buff up magic too, what'd you expect? This fight can be quite hard, but always remember, he's quite the sitting duck when someone's in love with him, so you can always use items on your party and other magic that doesn't hurt him in any way. Have the Earth Planet aligned and the wings set in advance to take advantage of him, but don't forget to nab his item, the bathrobe for the bath set. Next up on the chopping block is the Fugitive, a recolor of Mangus Muzzleflash, looking the most different this time with the yellowish skin, pinker reds, and hey, he even has the edit I made in the previous video. They had a lot of fun with this recolor. Anyways, he's yet another fierce threat. That attack for someone who has like to counterattack quite a lot can do, well, a lot. Not only that, but being as strong with his normal skill in Blood Rage, it's easy to block but painful if you mistime it. His magic is no joke either. Blazing Cannon also has a 75 chance to Scorch, and it's really painful. And as well as Heat Fondue can hit everyone as well. Combine that with his 50,000 HP, and if unprepared, you might be his next victim. Thankfully, Chai can set up defenses, power up the Water Planet for Sorbet, and always stay healed up. Don't forget the item he drops too, this being the Slippers of the Bath set. Ironic coming from the literal Fugitive. Finally, to round off the Space Police, we have the Windmaster, a recolor of Bree Fury, who now has a dark purple armor, darker skin tone, and white hair. Okay, side note, why does she resemble Mirko from My Hero Academia? Like the white hair, the darker skin tone, the figure, the suggestive outfit. I know it's a coincidence, but my brain just can't unsee it. Also, she is very deadly, with even more speed and power to her name, with Celestial Swap, obviously, an AoE version of Wind Talent that can hit quite hard, and Sonic Saber is just as spiky and painful as I remember. But easily the biggest buff is now that whenever she uses her signature move of Cyclone Waltz, she's not locked to one character anymore, she's now locked to 3 characters. Losing half of your team for a few turns is very brutal. Considering her speed and strength, this fight might be a good test of endurance. Chai might be better off in the back setting up defenses, then move to the front, then use Cactus Crush move to do as much damage as possible. Also, set up Prism Barriers or Sparkling Shields to make sure to block some of those deadly attacks. Not a great strategy, but it will certainly ease the pain. But the reward is far greater than anything else. The last piece of the Bath set, called the Bath set. Weird. Equipping all these pieces will net you a disgustingly strong stat buff. Let's use it on the last of our foes. After all that, we have the Seeker, a recolor of Beak Fowler. And man, this is the laziest recolor ever. He just found a slightly bluish shirt, didn't he? Anyways, say it with me, he has Celestial Swap. Yay. But he also has some dark magic and Shadow Die and Dazzle Darts for some easy dreaded darkness damage. But his physical skills are really scary if you remember. Rising Palm isn't too concerning, but it can still do quite a lot if unblocked. But his main fear is Lotus Barrage, an unblockable move which has a 25% to instantly kill you. And remember, he moves up to 3 times, be very careful. But now, since you have a full bath set, you can now comfortably kick this guy's ass with the power that you've been preparing for this shower. Equip it on the Light Mage or Pico if you start with the Dark Mage to get the most amount of damage in this stupid pheasant. With all our dark foes, light is their greatest enemy. And of course, showers. Another dark foe, the Zolala crew, a recolor the Equalula crew Enigma, donning a grayer tone and a purple spot on him, resembling the Zolala crew from Magical Vacation. And I'll be honest, this one's kinda weak. Sure, having Jackbot and buffing his stats is very scary, and yeah, when it gives him an IQ boost. But recently, he's still a strict magic user walled by Sorbet and the Light Mage. He also has Shadow Die and Blood Money for some quick damage. And Celestial Swap. It really isn't a threat. You should know the best strategies by now to take down this 70,000 HP Wall of Darkness. But now, we save the absolute strongest for last. This one takes things to the next level. The forgotten Magical Starsign Super Boss. Enter the Insect Mage, a recolor of Kale. Having a much grayer and greener cape makes him slightly scarier with his alive counterpart. Unlike his counterpart, the Insect Mage is strictly a light mage, no darkness in sight. Maybe it shaved a new light. The new light is ass-whooping apparently. Having all the magic except dark this time. You know the drill. Heat Fondue for fire, Briar Patch for wood, Falcon Dive for wind, Gravel Pounder for earth, Absolute Zero for water, Crystal Laser for light, and his signature move, Insect Bullet, to nerf those stats to the ground. And Celestial Swap. For strategies, here's what you can do. Start off by buffing your team with shield and defensive buff, as well as Celestial Swapping yourself before you even summon them. So that way, you'll have a significant advantage. If you have the Bath set, put it on the Dark Mage, or if you start with Light, put it on Pico, and power up the Fire Planet. You might also have the Winged and Misty set from the previous videos, so put it on the characters that might do better with speed, like Lassie, Chai, and Sorbet. After all of that though, try your best to whittle them down as much as possible. Some moves like Gravel Pounder and Absolute Zero won't break everyone's barrier, but moves like Heat Fondue, Briar Patch, and Falcon Die absolutely will. So always have Healing Wings set up just in case of those low health emergencies. Insect Mage has 80,000 health, the most HP so far, so stay on your guard until you defeated this mage once and for all. And that's all 11 boss figurines. Dang, quite some tough foes to face. Though not every enemy is represented with a recolor. Like, I wonder where the Space Police is. That would be cool. Well, maybe there's a recolor somewhere. Okay, let me explain. Hidden within the game's code are more juicy secrets than you may think. One of those is a figurine, or in this case, 5 figurines. The red, blue, green, yellow, and brown hero. They are completely unobtainable by any legitimate means. The only reason I found them was because I wanted to get these figurines mostly easily by just cheating my way through. But getting information on these guys was hard. Not only I was the only one to mention them in the existence of these guys, but rather the fact that I can't find an easy way to get the stats and such like that. But, let me see what I can do. After some work and a completely different emulator, here is the secret figurine fights against the red, blue, green, yellow, and brown heroes, the recolors of the Space Police. Honestly, they just look like bootleg Power Rangers here. Pretty sweet. Anyways, they have the exact same attacks as the normal Space Police troops. In the front, they can use Punishing Beam and Stompy Foot to attack the front row, and in the back, they can use Punishing Bomb to potentially scorch an opponent. But the main difference is that they actually have each element's respective magic. Level 1 spells for the front row particularly. Fire with Lava Spuds, Water with Hailstorm, Wood with Pepperthorn, Wind with Wind Talon, and Earth with Gravel Pounder, only attacking one enemy. The another difference is that one spawns in the back and the 4 others spawn in the front. The one that in the back depends on what figure you use, so if you spawn the red hero will be in the back, and the same applies for all of them. They can use more than just level 1 spells. Red can use Magma Roast, Lava Spuds, and Heat Fondue. Green can use Minty Freshness, Pepperthorn, and Briar Patch. Yellow can use Wind Talon and Falcon Dive. Brown can use Smoke Forte and Gravel Pounder. And blue can use Hailstorm and Ice Fromage. Another interesting fact about these guys, they have an exclusive item they can drop, that being parts of the Justice set. Each one that spawns holds a piece of that set. Red has the Justice Helm, green has the Justice Arm, yellow has the Justice Suit, brown has the Justice Boots, and blue has the Justice Badge. Collecting all of them will give you a massive physical attack boost. It's unknown why these figures are unattainable, but my guess they were just unfinished. Just look at some of these spell animations. And maybe they were used for magic testing purposes, but the main reason for their inclusion is unknown for now. Alright, now we are fully done with the figurines. After you are done with all of that, there is one foe stand between you and completion, the master himself, Master Macadamias. He is by far the strongest enemy in the entire game. For comparisons, here are the stats of Umbra, and here are the stats of Macadamias. Yeah, this guy doesn't mess around. He is completely passive in the beginning part of the fight, meaning you have ample time to set up barriers, minty freshness, jams, celestial swap, you name it, because this fight starts as soon as you hit him, and Shy is going to be the heavy hitter for this one, so get your strongest equipment and put it on him. If you have the bath set, this will be a little bit easier. Macadamias will have the most amount of moves in the game, but he only seems to use the moves that does the most amount to one given person, or he just uses Celestial Swap. But this is still a frightening Celestial Swap in the game, due to his high IQ and setting up for orbital ends. If he's at low HP, then the hands will move much closer. Make sure you strike him right before you even try it. He has another move called Guts, which shoots 3 fast gusts of wind to the front, doing disgusting damage. If 2 of them at least hit you and you're not named Mocha, you're dying to this move. His other main magic consists of Wind Talon to hit everyone, and Falcon Dive to obliterate everyone. Mocha will not survive this, and you really don't need him due to him being a Wind Mage. Now, he does have the other elemental moves. Heat Fondue for fire, Fire Patch for wood, Gravel Pound for earth, Absolute Seer for water, Crystal Laser for lights, and Blood Money for dark, but again, he rarely uses the moves, only sticking to the wind and gust and celestial swap, so don't worry too much about those moves. As for strategy for winning, it mostly boils down for luck for you, pal. You aren't guaranteed to one-shot him, so he'll basically always get a handful of moves in, but the same strategies always apply here. Lassie is to a Celestial Swap and Emergency Healing, Sorbet is used for walls and support, Chai, Pico, the Dark Pro tags are used for offense, the Light Mage is used for everyone else is taking up slack, and Mocha is eventually useless, so keep him on item duty. But when the stars eventually align, you'll defeat the strongest warrior in the galaxy, and receive the hidden key item with a warrior's nose. It's literally a bragging rights sort of things, it's essentially useless. And that's it! That's literally everything about battle and story-related Magical Starsign. This nearly 2-year-long journey has been very nice, and I'm happy to share these memories with you. Now, I didn't cover absolutely everything in this series. Let me know if I missed a few things. But overall, hopefully you were satisfied with this experience. And maybe next time, for the foreseeable future, I might tackle multiplayer, because that's an entire can of worms I can sink my teeth into. But for now, thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you in our next adventure. Bye!